So I'm doing videos about bipolar disorder, and I've just done one all about withdrawing and coming off olanzapine and what that was like. So this one is all about coming off lithium, which is a mood stabiliser, and something I've now been on for about 5 years. But 2 years after my first episode, so I'd been taking lithium for 2 years. Me and my drugs doctor decided that we would try and come off it. Now, he knew and I knew that it was too soon to do that because I wasn't healed enough yet. But at that stage, I wanted to see if I could have another baby. And having a baby and being on lithium don't go together because it's really bad for the unborn baby and it creates deformed children. And I didn't want that for me. I didn't want to have a deformed child. And the only other way around that was to go back on olanzapine or some other similar sedating drug to stop me from getting high. The idea of that filled me with dread. So I thought, okay, let's just see if I could possibly be healthy and normal and stable without lithium. Lo and behold, 4 days later, I was already climbing up high and going into psychotic stages of mania. So that didn't work at all. So I was on 700 milligrams, went down to 600 after a couple of weeks, then 500, and that 600 to 500, that 100 milligram drop took me out of the therapeutic range. So I was still on it, I was still taking it, but not enough for it to actually be a toxic enough dose to do the job. So I stayed on my 500, and I remember going for a therapy session just before I went to Paris for the weekend with my friend Andrea, and I was a bit worried about going, and I hadn't been to Paris for a really long time, and I was doing it on my own with her, but it felt like a really big experience for me to do that only 2 years after my episode, because life was still not back to normal. It was tricky still, and I had still a lot to work out. So I went anyway, and we did have a great time, me and Ange, but as she might tell you if you ever meet her, it was very tricky, and I did start getting high, and I was having panic attacks, and I wasn't sleeping enough, and I was going for runs for miles. I was like, off I go, like I felt really stuck in my body again, I've got to run it all out. And I started having all these crazy ideas about building 100% sustainable eco bicycles made out of bamboo and solid rubber tyres, and they were going to be made in different parts of the world, and these big cooperatives were going to change the world and all this. But anyway, I digress totally. Or do I? That is coming off lithium. It didn't work for me at that time. And when you listen to other people on YouTube, there are some people out there with bipolar or other mental health problems that take lithium and are successful in coming off it and don't relapse. Or maybe they do relapse, but it might be 2 years later or 5 years later. Or some people, they manage their moods so that they know really well that this is what it's like when they're a bit high, and they can feel themselves climbing, but it's all manageable, or they might get like a bit low and depressed, but still they can manage it and they can deal with it without the medication. But with me, it took about 4 days to get high, and Robin notices it before me, or noticed it at that point before me, and I was like, well, yeah, not sure, and he kept an eye on me, and then that same evening I was sitting on the sofa, and Heidi came back from school and she was reading her book, her reading book, and I was finding it really hard, and I was kind of giggling at what she was saying a bit, and I was looking up towards the ceiling, and then the ceiling started kind of deforming and kind of almost dripping down on me, so I was starting to hallucinate. And it was then that I was like, okay, Joanna, you're definitely getting high. So I think it was the next day that I went into the doctor's surgery to basically try and sort myself out and healthily go back up with my medication and tell them what was going on. And yeah, I was all over the place by that point. So yeah, in the future going forward, I would totally and utterly love to be able to be one of those people that could come off lithium and not relapse and be healthy and well and stable, because it is possible without medication. So in the future I will do a video on my ideas on how I might go about coming off it safely. But for now, I think that's it for this video, and please press the like button and subscribe, and comment below if you've got any questions about what I'm talking about, or if you've been through an episode, or you know a friend that's going through an episode. Maybe I can help and answer your questions. I'd love to help if I can.